I mean, everybody on the floor was trying to call a timeout, myself including Nico, coach on the sideline. But they didn't give it to us. But, forget about the timeout. There's a bunch of fouls. Like I said, that's unacceptable.
How do you try to bounce back as you guys head home and try to turn this thing around?
We should be 2-0, so, we're good. We're going to win this series. We're going to win this. We know what we got to.
The first thing is, obviously, they score. We take a look at getting it in quick. We don't get it in quick. I call timeout. Referee looked right at me, ignored me. Went into Tyrese. I called timeout again. Then the melee started, and I guess I got to run out onto the floor or do something to make sure and get his attention. But I needed a timeout there to advance it. Would have been good, but couldn't get it. There was no time to talk about it. Mike, you can ask him if you want to. See if he saw me calling timeout. I just watched the film just to make sure, and I'm clearly calling timeout. I didn't see if he looked at me in the film, but I could see me clearly calling timeout twice. Yep. What else?
I'm gonna tell you something. 3 days of the playoffs, especially tonight, has wiped away every negative emotion I've had about basketball watching the Toronto Raptors this year. Straight up, it has not been fun to cover the Raptors this year. There's been a lot of abysmal basketball, especially lately. There was a lot of abysmal basketball early with Dennis Schroeder as well. It was not an enjoyable product. It was nothing like Scotty's rookie season. It wasn't quite as bad as last season, so I ended up finding myself being grateful for most of the season. But holy crap. We are in a basketball renaissance right now. Not only did we get to watch some super fire basketball in March Madness, especially on the women's side, and then we get gifted with the first 3 days of this, not to mention the play-in, which was all right. It was all right. A lot of blowouts, a lot of predictable results. The Atlanta Hawks going out, that was kind of predictable. Not really an interesting game, in my opinion. Watching the Kings sort of smack the Warriors, who looked very hapless, that wasn't super interesting. But the playoffs, wow. What are we watching here? What did I just see? I mean, we just saw a game between the Pelicans and the Thunder, and I thought this might be the best game of the first round. And then we get 2 games that were just on that level, if not better. Holy crap. We are really watching, and rivalries help a lot. And rivalries cannot happen when everyone's buddy-buddy. And these narratives sort of write themselves. The in-season tournament and the play-in have created something of a rivalry, right? We got Pacers versus Bucks. There's something there now. You know what I mean? The Bucks have something to prove. They got beat by that team in the play, in the in-season tournament. That's something. That's something. Now this Knicks and Sixers series is very chippy. It's very physical. I mean, all we're missing right now is Joel Embiid doing a little bit of airplane dance, which we know he is known to do anytime he gets up in a series. I don't think he's going to get up in this series. This feels like this was it. The only series really that doesn't feel very interesting right now, which is the series that nobody really wants to watch, which is the series that they're pretty much running at the worst slots ever. The NBA knows what it's doing when they schedule a game at 7 o'clock and then they start Sixers Knicks at 7:30. They know exactly what they're doing. They want you to tune in for exactly 20 minutes of Magic Cavaliers to basically realize you don't want to watch Magic Cavaliers. It's pretty ugly. It's pretty ugly. So we'll talk about all 3 games because we're not hating on the Magic and Cavaliers. I think the Cavaliers played really well. I think the Magic, once again, did not, but they were chippy. They made it close, made it a lot more competitive than they should have. But really, this is going to be about those 2 games, man. Double header. Can you imagine 5 hours of basketball and you get treated to 2 endings like that? I feel like my heart is in my throat from that ending for the Lakers and Denver Nuggets. Holy crap. The Nuggets very wisely elect not to call a timeout, 99-99. And they just allow Jamal Murray, who had been struggling all game and has been struggling all series, to just go one-on-one against possibly the best defender in the world in Anthony Davis. Debatable. But when healthy, really one of the best defenders, even in space. He is very capable of guarding Jamal Murray in space. And they get a fadeaway 2-pointer, the shot you're never supposed to take unless you are Jamal Murray in the playoffs. And he hits it. Oh my God. It's not quite Kawhi Game 7, bounce, 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 bounce. I get it. The stakes are not high enough in a Game 2 for it to be that. But this was series defining. Because I'll tell you something. D'Angelo Russell probably won't play this well 2 more times in this series. But if he does, they have something here. The Nuggets played about the worst game that they could. In fact, they had a lot of issues early in the game. I think they were soft, right? They had a lot of shots just go in and out, rim in, rim out. Shooting luck is a real thing. So I think that this was it for the Lakers. The Lakers are not winning 4 out of 5 against the Denver Nuggets. LeBron knew this. This was their Hail Mary. They were gassed. They gave everything to this. I don't know why the Nuggets allowed Anthony Davis and D'Angelo Russell to do what they did, because it felt way too easy for the Lakers all night. But then when the Nuggets decided, it's our time. You know that Matrix, there's like a Matrix meme going around about the Nuggets where Neo just sort of like figures out who he is. It's like the Nuggets are figuring out in real time who they are. They are the defending champions. Bert saying Doc Rivers doesn't coach the Nuggets, so they are safe. Agreed. By the way, if anyone wants to call in, there's a call-in link. We haven't done a call-in show in a while. I don't mind listening to somebody talk about I would love to hear your enthusiasm as well. We can make this a call-in show. This won't be super long. It's 1:49 in the morning, but we just got to talk about these games, man. It was crazy. I mean, really. So let's start at the beginning. Let's start with Orlando and Cleveland. Okay. I gotta be honest, I was flicking between the 2 games as much as I could, to see if the Orlando Magic got back into it. I expected them to cover, the spread in terms of my version of a spread, which was 15. I didn't think this was going to be a blowout. Both teams failed to register 100 points. I mean, look at the scores right now. Isn't this way more interesting? I mean, the NBA has figured it out, man. Dude. The average team tonight didn't score 100 points. Think about that. Yes, one of those teams is Orlando, and they may never score 100 points again. But seriously, 86, 96, 101, 104, 99, 101. Is this not more interesting? Are you not entertained? This is so much more interesting than 160, 156. I promise you. It's so much more interesting. There's stops. There's physicality. Yes, the Lakers are still being gifted a ton of free throws. And yes, the Lakers got away with at least 3 travels that I counted. But man, this is so much more interesting. I mean, to people who were under the impression, if the league was under the impression that real hoop fans want to see this all-star game type of 3-point marathon, you are sadly mistaken. Nobody wants to see that shit. I think you're going to see it in the ratings. Like if they can keep refereeing like this, if the series continue to be this interesting, you're going to see a lot of people tuning in. man, because who doesn't want to see this? This is an entertainment product. It may be the sport that we all love. Yes. It may be attached to a city that we are in. Yes. But ultimately, this is entertainment. And this is the height of entertainment. This is peak basketball. I no longer have to go and watch EuroLeague games in order to cleanse my eyes of the bullshit that is the NBA. This is awesome. I love it. So tonight, Paolo Banchero, a slightly better game. 9 for 20 from the field. He did not have 9 turnovers tonight. He had 6 turnovers. Franz Wagner also had 6 turnovers. These Magic guards are these Magic young players are very, very over leveraged here. And Jalen Suggs with a sort of scary tweak in the first quarter. When he went out, it looked really scary. He wasn't putting any weight on that knee. And, he did make it back for the second half, but he really was not himself. He ends up cracking 9 points. Not really, a big scorer for them, but defensively, if he doesn't have his mobility, he's going to be compromised, and they need him. The Cleveland Cavaliers got a really big burst from Isaac Okoro off the bench. When they were like putting up that big run in the first half, they led big at the half. Neither team cracked 25 points in a quarter in the second half. Like, it was just a grind. Like what we're talking, Orlando scored 42 points combined in the second half. That's incredible. So it was 42 to 42 in the second half. Wow. Like, it's just a slugfest, right? It's a lot of defense being played. These are both really good defensive teams. Evan Mobley took the primary assignment on Paolo Banchero and made his life a living hell. He missed a ton of his threes, but I think they're makeable threes, and people don't realize it. But quietly, he's not a high volume 3-point shooter, but he took 4 tonight, and that's an encouraging sign, because I think if you're a Cavaliers fan, like, this is what you're hoping for. Donovan Mitchell did not have a great shooting night. I think the length bothered him a little bit. And, even without Jalen Suggs, they have capable defenders all over the place. So this is a very interesting series from a defensive perspective. Offensively, not a lot. If the Magic are going to be anything in this series, they're going to need a lot more from Cole Anthony and Markelle Fultz off the bench, man. Those guys combined for 1 point in 24 minutes. Like, they need a lot more. They got a really good performance, an energetic attitude performance from Mo Wagner, who was banging inside, but Jared Allen just presents so many issues. 20 rebounds, including 9 offensive rebounds. He was a beast, and it's just too much to deal with. Even with the size that they have, Jonathan Isaac goes 1 for 7. All of his shots were 3-pointers, a lot from the corners. He was not effective tonight. So they're going to have to find something. I don't know what that something is. Wendell Carter, he goes 1 for 7. Like, they're not generating good offense. They're not getting paint touches. They're initiating their offense through guys who are very, very turnover prone. It's leading to a ton of, breakouts for the Cavaliers going the other way. It's just demoralizing, right? And now the Orlando Magic go back home. Are they going to be a better team back home? Could we see them at least win 1 at home and stretch this series a little bit? I wouldn't be surprised at all if Jalen Suggs is healthy that they win both at home. They're a very energetic team. They're going to have to figure out the turnovers. Like, you cannot have your 2 best players having 12 turnovers. It's not a recipe for success, especially when the other team is struggling. I mean, you managed to hold them to 41% from the field. You managed to hold them to 30% from 3. That's a win for your defense, because that's significantly below season averages. Unfortunately, you shoot 36% from the field and 25% from 3. You're never going to win another game ever. And you get crushed on the offensive glass, and you get, you're dead even on the assist battle. So, you just can't. You can't lose on the margins, and you lose the stocks battle, and you lose the turnover battle. You really can't win when you're the less talented team, and the Magic are the less talented team here for sure. And you don't have the best player. You're running your offense through a less efficient version of their star. So this is just not going to be a fun series for the Orlando Magic until they start generating some good offense. Moving on to the New York Knicks and the Philadelphia 76ers. And honestly, this game was topsy-turvy, right? Philadelphia comes out looking every bit like the very talented team that they are. In the first half, I thought Joel Embiid moved a lot better. Um, defensively, Tyrese Maxey was very, very good tonight. He got whatever the hell he wanted, 35 points. Joel Embiid with 34 points. It's hard to really complain about his performance. In the first half, he was really good. In the second half, he settled for a lot of jumpers, a lot of treatment on that knee. So, I think you can make a case that, it was bothering him. It severely impacted his mobility. He wasn't boxing out very well. The one time he did go up and he blocked that shot, which was his only block of the game, he kind of came down very awkwardly and very gingerly, and he was kind of holding his knee. So he just, it's surgically repaired. Maybe he doesn't trust it yet. Seems to be the constant commentary that he just doesn't trust it yet. He doesn't trust it yet. Okay. Defensively, he's hurting them out there at times when he's not willing to box out, and it just doesn't help them that they're facing off against this team with these really big guys who can get offensive rebounds. Josh Hart, wow. Like, you could not dream of a better start to a series for a guy who came into this series as not a very good shooter. Historically hasn't been the greatest shooter. He plays 48 minutes. You want to know what Tom Thibodeau thinks about Josh Hart? He didn't come out the whole game. He played every single second. Everyone else got a breather. Isaiah Hartenstein got 18 minutes of rest. Wow. Right? Jalen Brunson, the star point guard, got 10 minutes of rest. Right? OG Anunoby, the defensive stalwart, the big prize possession, the future max player, he got 11 minutes of rest in a close game, in a playoff game. But Josh Hart did not come out for 1 second. 4 offensive rebounds, 15 fucking rebounds, 21 points, including 4 for 7 from 3. He was everywhere. He was energetic. He was timely. He was incredible. He kept them in this game. When they were falling apart, he just kept knocking down big shots. And you just kept it close. And then in the second half, you just started to feel that momentum just shifting. And then they come out in the third quarter, and it's like Knicks, and you get the crowd into it, and you're at the freaking Mecca, bro. You are at Madison Square Garden, and that crowd gets ruckus and very loud and kind of obnoxious sometimes. And they're just cheering for their Knicks, and they are playing hard, man. Deuce McBride off the bench was incredible. Precious Achiuwa does not get off the bench again. To all the Raptor fans out there saying, "Oh my God, we lost the greatest," blah, blah, blah. He is not playing in the playoffs for them, which means he is not in their top 8 rotation. He may play if they advance, matchup driven, but he is arguably the third big in the rotation if you're counting OG Anunoby as the power forward in this lineup. So he's playing behind Bojan Bogdanovic, which makes sense to me because they need his shooting. Bogdanovic doesn't play a hell of a lot tonight, so really they went largely 7 deep. Mitchell Robinson, as I mentioned last live, very good matchup against Joel Embiid. I think he was not as impactful, but 3 offensive rebounds is what you need from him. But really, Isaiah Hartenstein, I always think about him because I wanted the Raptors to sign him so badly. The summer they got Otto Porter, I was begging for Isaiah Hartenstein. I was very happy with Otto Porter. Love Otto Porter. Unfortunately, wasn't healthy for us. But man, Isaiah Hartenstein, I spotted his analytics when he was a backup for the LA Clippers. And I was just like, they're going to regret losing this guy. He is better than Ivica Zubac. Like, he is a really, really freaking good player. And people were just like, what are we talking about Isaiah Hartenstein? He averages 7 points. You are seeing it now. Like, this guy, he is a great passer, and he is a very efficient scorer. He is an extremely underrated defender. That block on Tyrese Maxey, that offensive rebound, he won this game for them. It's not Jalen Brunson 8 for 29. I promise you it's not that. Okay. Like, Jalen Brunson has been really shaky in this series. 24 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists on 29 shots. He's doing what he can, but they have really severely just like limited him. For the Sixers side, I think Tobias Harris started out great. Kyle Lowry was very timely. He hit a huge 3 when they were just on the ropes. They couldn't generate any offense. He hits that corner 3 on the handoff. Kyle Lowry is he's not the Anthony Melton though, dude. Like I love Kyle Lowry. I just think at this stage, 34 minutes is a lot for him. And the more you play him, the less impactful he's going to be at this stage. But that being said, he was good. Buddy Hield has not really been the Buddy Hield we saw in Indiana. But I think he's competing on defense, which is the most you can ask of him. There was couple possessions where he got matched up one-on-one against Jalen Brunson. I think he did a pretty good job. So really, Nicholas Batum, not quite, not quite those heroics that we saw in the play-in, but really, solid, really solid for him. Performance defensively and just as a playmaker and just a heady veteran. But yeah, and our boy OG Anunoby, I think it's hard to gauge his performance. Really, he had a big dunk. He's been a little bit invisible, missed a couple of chippies, kind of by the rim. He hasn't been great. But defensively, I think he's doing a lot. But he hasn't been. I don't think he's been one of the three best players. On my honest opinion, I don't think he's been one of their three best players in any of the games so far. So I'm waiting for an OG Anunoby explosion. Obviously, I'm a very big fan of the guy, and I want him to do well. As much as I'm not a fan of Knicks fans, sometimes I'm on the fence about who I'm rooting for in this series. I can't stand Joel Embiid. Love Tyrese Maxey. Love Kyle Lowry. Can't stand Nick Nurse. So it's like, okay, you got two I'm for, two I'm against. And on the Knicks side, I like all their players. All of them, pretty much. Every single player on that team. I like most of them. That fan base is annoying as hell, though, sometimes. And I'm from New York, so, it's weird. But yeah. Anyways, it feels like the Knicks are a bit of a Raptors rivalry, so it's hard to cheer for them. But honestly, in this series, I'm cheering for them because they deserve it. They deserve that win. Now, you might say they got robbed. Debatable. The Tyrese Maxey timeout that never was. The turnover that became, expecting a foul. This is something you learn. When you go down, you don't expect the whistle. You hold the ball, and then you call timeout. Tyrese Maxey put the ball in front of him, and Josh Hart just took it out of his hands. I believe it was Josh Hart who took it out of his hands. So, to me, that's on him, and it's on the referees, right? But it took two to tango in that moment. Everything happens very quickly. I've genuinely been pretty surprised at how many times the referees have been right, especially there was a play where I think Reggie Miller, who was calling it today for the Denver Nuggets Lakers game, where he's like, don't challenge that. And the referees were right. You know what I mean? The coaches were right to challenge it. But he, on a replay, did not see. You know what I mean? It's difficult to make these bang calls. And, if Nick Nurse did call a timeout, then sure, he deserves to get a timeout. Would that have changed the outcome? With the way things were going, the Knicks had all the momentum in the world in this game. So maybe they push it to overtime, and then your 7-foot center who's barely walking up and down the court, barely making it down, not offensive rebounding. That Isaiah Hartenstein offensive rebound, that's on Joel Embiid. Now, I'm not chastising the guy. He's obviously playing through pain, right? So this is not something, it's unfortunate. The last live I talked about Joel Embiid, I said he's probably the most talented player in the NBA. Pound for pound, unstoppable. If he puts his mind to it, there's nothing anyone can do to stop him from scoring. He has a lot of the same gifts that Nikola Jokic has, but he has so much more athletic potential. Unfortunately, that timeliness of knowing when to, when not to, the maturity, all those things that make Jokic so great, he doesn't have that. And I got to say, at the end of the game, the defeat was present in him. And it continues in this, this sort of whatever this was, right? This body language is not needed ever. This sadness that he has, this Oh my God. He's saying the right thing. He's saying, there was a foul. It's bullshit, blah, 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 blah. And maybe, we'll get a retraction from the league saying like, hey, you know, Zigsaw Puzzle saying Nurse didn't call a timeout. He almost did. Then he made a gesture that he's not calling it. We'll have to see it again. We'll definitely have to see it. I'll definitely go back and look at it. But we will see, right? But it's something I realized while watching this game. It's so important how you end a half. It's so important how you end a quarter. It's so important how you end a half, right? Um, I didn't like the way the Sixers were like they are the more talented team by far. Like Tyrese Maxey is doing numbers on Jalen Brunson right now. Really, that debate. I'm not saying that debate is over, but like what Tyrese Maxey is able to do, Jalen Brunson is not able to do in terms of creating space, in terms of just getting his shot, getting wherever the hell he wants, going left, right, just punishing defenses. He's bigger. He's been better. He's outplayed him significantly, right? And Joel Embiid is obviously the best player in this series, and it's not close. It's not close at all. It's Joel Embiid up here, and then whatever you want to make the debate between Tyrese Maxey and Jalen Brunson somewhere down here. The entire gap in this entire series has been the role players. The role players for New York have been incredible. Whether it's Donte Divencenzo hitting that huge three, whether it's Josh Hart, whether it's Isaiah Hartenstein, whether it's OG Anunoby, whoever, Deuce McBride, this entire team, it's so fun because honestly, I got to tell you, as a kid growing up, these are the New York teams that I grew up loving, right? They were teams. They were whole teams. You had guys like Charlie Ward, John Starks, Larry Johnson, Latrell Sprewell, Allen Houston, Marcus Camby. Like there's so many guys. And there was not like that one guy. It wasn't Michael Jordan versus, this guy. I mean, yeah, there was Ewing for forever, but it's not like really Ewing. Ewing was never like the best center in the league. You know what I mean? So it was like the Knicks. It was Jordan versus the Knicks. It was Jordan versus the Pistons, And that is what this Knicks team is sort of built on. It's built on the whole thing runs around Jalen Brunson, and we can debate why that is, and whether that's for the good, because in the regular season it was for great, and right now it looks like maybe it needs to be a little less shot attempts for Jalen Brunson, but really he is taking so much pressure from the Sixers defense that it is opening up guys like Josh Hart. There's a reason why Josh Hart is open all the time. It's because they're sending a double to deal with Jalen Brunson. So I am really, really impressed with the Knicks. I think they are severely out-talented. Not honestly severely. They're clearly outmatched in this series, out-talented, and they're just outworking the shit out of this team. And, this is not I want to say this as a Raptor fan. There's a very, very, very solid case to be made that the Raptors team that beat Joel Embiid in 2019 was less talented than that team. Go up and down that roster and look at that roster. Jimmy Butler, Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons in all-star form. You could argue they had 3 of the top 20 players in the league. The Raptors did not. They also had JJ Redick. They had Tobias Harris, right? Like, I mean, you got to really look at that roster and say, how the hell did the Raptors beat that team? Composure, man. Composure. Because Marc Gasol and Kyle Lowry and Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green and Pascal Siakam, these guys showed more composure than Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons in that moment. And it was supposed to be like okay, this is a young lesson, and boom, they lose Jimmy Butler, and then it's c'est la vie. And then they watch Jimmy Butler go to final after final. But this composure thing matters. This leadership thing matters. And right now I'm watching this guy, Joel Embiid, and I'm looking at his face and I'm like, if I'm his team looking at his reaction right now, I feel like the series is over. KL07. Wasn't TJ McConnell like the 8th man on that team? Yeah, I believe he was. It was a crazy stacked roster. There were 3 teams in the entire, there were 4 teams in the league that year that had a legitimate chance at an NBA championship. The Raptors, the Golden State Warriors, the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Philadelphia 76ers. 2019. Those were the 4 teams. Make a very, very solid case that the Raptors from the outside looking in that series. They won, yes, but the Raptors were not the most talented team in the league in 2018, 2019. I don't think they were. They were great. They were incredible, but the drop off from Kawhi to the next guy was way bigger than the drop off from Steph to KD or KD to Steph. Or, do you know what I mean? Like, Giannis was still the best player in the East. Kawhi beat him. The Raptors beat him, okay? But, and we beat all 3 of them. Yes, we did. And that's why I think that the Raptors run, which is often overshadowed by, oh, y'all wouldn't have won if KD wasn't hurt. Please understand, I think the Raptors had possibly the hardest road to an NBA championship I think I've ever seen in my life. Those were 3 of the best teams, and they had to face all of them. They didn't get lucky, and Milwaukee faced Philly in the second round or some bullshit like that. No. And there's no team in the league this year that's going to have as hard a path as the Raptors 2019 team had. Nobody. The Denver Nuggets, however, are going to go through hell right now. Not only are they going to face the Lakers, so maybe they will. The Denver Nuggets will actually. If they make it all the way, they will. Because they are the number 2 seed, right? They will have to face Minnesota or, wait, who are they going to face in a second? They'll face OKC? No. They'll face Minnesota. So Minnesota, and then they'll face OKC, potentially, if OKC makes it all the way, if they don't get beat first. Or they'll have to face the Clippers or the Mavericks. Like, this is going to be hell. So I stand corrected. Whatever the Raptors went through, the Denver Nuggets will have to go through more this year. Because if the path for the Nuggets is as follows: Lakers, LeBron, AD, and then the next round, they got to face Rudy Gobert, Karl-Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, and the Minnesota Timberwolves. And then in the Western Conference Finals, they have to face either, I don't know, the Clippers or the Mavericks or the Thunder or one of those teams. And then, or the Pelicans, give the Pelicans some credit. And then in the finals, they have to face Boston. Oh boy. The Clippers could also have an incredibly tough run. They have to face the Mavericks, right? Then they have to face, the path through the West is going to be hell because the teams in the West are also good this year. Like, really, I was talking to my boy Leo, and salute to Leo and Cowbell Kingdom, and the Sacramento Kings and everything. And we were talking about how tough the West is, and sucks for the Kings that they're out. And I was like, I really think the Pelicans might be the number 2 seed in the East. I think that's a fair take. I would take the Pelicans over the Bucks right now. I would take the Pelicans over every single team in the East. I would take the Pelicans, a healthy Pelicans team with Zion, to beat every single team in the East other than the Celtics right now. And they are the 8th seed. So that is really just perspectivizing how tough the West is right now. So I don't think like the Golden State Warriors or the Sacramento Kings need to feel too bad about, what happened to them. It's just a really tough conference. And by the way, it's about to get a hell of a lot freaking tougher because 2 of the youngest teams in that conference, the OKC Thunder and the San Antonio Spurs, they're coming up, right? And the Houston Rockets are no slumps, no slumps either. So I think the power is just so concentrated in the West. So it's like everybody is either, and I mean, like, you got Memphis. Oh my God, Jaren Jackson Jr., Ja Morant. Like, I don't think people understand how good the West is. Like, the Kings could be like the 14th team in the West next year. Does that blow your mind? It could happen. Literally, the worst team in the West is Portland. Who's there after that? San Antonio is not going to be the dumpster anymore. If they get help for Victor Wembanyama at all, like, they're competing play-in next year. Houston's competing for the play-in next year. Sacramento's competing for the play-in next year. Like, who's falling out for these teams to come up. It's like, is Phoenix going to miss the play-in next year with KD and D Book? Like, what is going on? There's so much talent in the West. It is legit insane. And that is what is making these teams so good. And really, it's parity. There's no super team juggernaut that is just going to run over everybody. I mean, you could say the closest thing to that is in the East, right? It's the Boston Celtics. Jaden saying, is the East getting old? Yeah, it is. It is definitely getting old. Milwaukee, you could argue the Sixers. I mean, yes, Tyrese Maxey is on the come up, and we'll see what they do in the with their free agency. But I mean, Joel Embiid could be like last 2 years of prime Embiid right now. He's approaching 30. With his history of injuries, please trust me, this is not going to end pretty for him. He's going to end up being a jump shooting big. One more injury. And that's it. That's it for, 10, 12 box plus minus Embiid. And then you have, the variable, which is the Indiana Pacers. The Toronto Raptors get some devastating news today. Not so devastating, but kind of sad news. They end up picking 19th instead of 16th. That's a drop off. Like, there was a 4-way tie with 47 wins across the league. The curse of parity. Because the Pacers win that game, ironically, against the Raptors. See, the Raptors could have secured themselves a 16th pick, but they didn't. So the Raptors will pick 19th, and we'll see what else. So there's a chance that you not only lose that 6th overall pick, but your 16th pick became a 19th pick, and so your dream of having this mid-first round pick, this high lottery pick, and the 31st overall pick, you might just end up with the 19th pick and the 31st pick in a weak draft. Oh boy, it's going to suck. But maybe the odds even out, and maybe instead of the 6th pick, you get lucky on draft night, and who knows? May 12th comes around. It's not that far away. We're like, 20 days away from May 12th? Fingers crossed every single day. Maybe the Raptors get the 3rd overall pick, 2nd overall pick, or 1st overall pick, or the 4th overall pick. We will see. Anyways, let's move on to the game of the night, which was the Denver Nuggets and the Los Angeles Lakers. And holy shit, was this a game. Jamal Murray struggles hard. For most of the game, he was really invisible. He was missing a ton of shots that were very makeable. He's their leading shot taker tonight. Nikola Jokic went 20 straight minutes without a field goal. He went all through the second quarter, most of the third quarter without scoring, and then the fourth quarter was just turned on. And there was this little interview with Michael Porter Jr. in which he was asked about Nikola Jokic. How can you make sure he has a good fourth quarter? And he said, he's Nikola Jokic. He's going to have he's going to have a good fourth quarter. And boy, did he ever. Oh my God. He bully balled the shit out of Anthony Davis. I mean, this game really, it started with Anthony Davis and it started with D'Angelo Russell, really. And then it kind of ping-ponged away from D'Angelo Russell a little bit. He missed the shot. He had that heat check moment. And then he kind of went away from it. He had a pretty costly couple turnovers. Then it went to Anthony Davis, who inexplicably was being, guarded by Nikola Jokic one-on-one. And not a good matchup. And Jokic really didn't do a great job. Like, he gave him middies. He didn't contest nearly as well as I think he could. Jokic is nobody's idea of a great defender, but he's a smart defender, and I think he's capable of doing so much better than he did tonight on Anthony Davis. I think like Anthony Davis just is a lot of, and it's tough asking your, a guy who's going to play 41 minutes for you at that size, 7'1", 7 feet tall. He's 7 feet tall. He's a very hefty guy. He's not like 22 years old. He carries so much of a load for you on offense, and now you're asking him to guard possibly one of the top 5, 6 best players in the NBA on the other end. The Lakers choose to go very egalitarian, pretty quiet night for Austin Reeves, but D'Angelo Russell really sparks them early. He gets a ton of threes to go, really huge part of that momentum building, run that they had in the first quarter. And then the second quarter, then Anthony Davis takes over and he's just doing anything he wants and everything looks super easy for him. And then you get LeBron James hitting back-to-back threes and just like really bringing them home. And you really felt it. Like you really felt like, man, the Lakers really could do this, right? Because every time the Nuggets made like that, I don't know, like 7, they brought it to 6-5, and then suddenly it's like the Lakers go on a little mini run of 6 points, you know? And it's just like it always felt like the Nuggets were just hanging around. And it reminded me of Vin Diesel. I don't know. Fast and Furious 1 was the first time, kind of aging myself here, the first Fast and Furious, not that that entire franchise needs any more promo. That was the first date that I went on. That movie was the first date that I went on. It was a girl, I think it was in grade 7. And I took the girl to the date, and the date was Fast and Furious. Okay, first one. And I always remember Vin Diesel's character and Paul Walker. And there's like this scene where Paul Walker pressed Nas, and he thinks he's ahead, like he's doing it. Oh my God, he's gonna beat him. He's gonna beat him. Y'all know the line, right? It's a freaking classic movie, right? It's like, it's weird. It's not Godfather. I get it, but it's a classic in the sense that they made 9 of these fucking things. They're probably gonna make 10 more of these things. They'll make as many as they can. My point is, he has them. He has them. And then Vin Diesel is just calm and cool because he's a veteran. He'd been through this. And he presses that Nas and he beats him. I don't know shit about cars, but I can tell you that after the race, he says, "Dude, I almost had you." He's like, "You almost had me." Wait, let me do the impression of Vin Diesel. I shaved my head for this. He's like, "You almost had me. You never had me. You never had your car." Ask a racer, any real racer. It doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning. That's it. That's it. The veteran team knows it doesn't matter if you have a 15-point first quarter lead and you exhaust yourself. The altitude in Denver is going to catch up with you. You're an older team. Game plan is game plan, right? You have a team that is running its offense through these guys, and really, I'm telling you, for this, Rob, your day job, my friend. Are you omitting the don't quit your day job? That's funny. Look, at the end of the day, we've seen a ton of like teams take very commanding leads early, right? And blow them late. The Sixers led early. The Lakers led early. Yes, points are points. And this is why box scores are so meaningless to me. Because the box score says that D'Angelo Russell outplayed Jamal Murray. But in the end, when it counted, the biggest shot, which might as well have been worth 50 points, Jamal Murray hit that shot. In the end, the box score says that Anthony Davis was better tonight than Nikola Jokic, right? You can make that argument. He had, 32 points. Jokic, scrub. He had 27 points. But man, those 20 rebounds, those 10 assists, and when he did his damage, the impact of a Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray is just so much greater right now in the playoffs. I thought Aaron Gordon was fine. I thought Michael Porter hit some very big threes. He had a really nice pass. I had like mixed thoughts about that pass. I thought he should have just gone up for that fast break 3. I think so much of learning to win in the playoffs is holding momentum, knowing when to do what, right? You got to know when to go for that 3, when to go, when not to go, when to slow it down. Like LeBron is a master of the game. Kyle Lowry is a master of the game. These guys, like, they understand what needs to be done when, and they understand that 2 points is not 2 points. They understand that a team going up 10-2 in the first quarter, in the first 4 minutes, That's not the same as a 10-2 run in the fourth quarter, which can break your back. This game is played mentally. It's psychological. Yes, at the end, we still tally these points as points. But to some extent, you're just kind of holding serve in the beginning. You're trading rallies. When you start going for the kill shot, when things start to get tight and pressure, that's when stars need to step up. And Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic stepped up in a way that D'Angelo Russell and, frankly, Anthony Davis did not towards the end. This is not shade on the Lakers. I think they played a really fine game, right? For the Nuggets tonight, they got a really big performance off the bench from Christian Brown, who had 10 points in 13 minutes. Not a lot tonight from Peyton Watson, but defensively, he is there to make the Lakers uncomfortable. I think this series is over, personally. I don't think the Lakers are going to win 4 out of 5. They are the significantly less talented team. I do believe that both the Lakers and the Sixers will be going home. And, people who like to kind of clown on Joel Embiid, like myself, and people who like to clown on maybe LeBron James are feeling a little bit of schadenfreude right now. These guys are like prima donnas, and they're babies, and they're always whining, etc. But please just respect, the brilliance that they are bringing to the table as well, because Joel Embiid is bringing basketball brilliance as much as I don't like him. And LeBron James, is giving a performance for the ages. I mean, dude, 21st year, keep saying it, 21 years in the NBA. He's so old. Like, he's 85 born, dude. 85. There are people on the internet talking about how he's trash who were born in 2006. Shut up. Like, he's so great. LeBron is so great. Watching him do this at this age is truly something. It's historic. He's become so much better than the player I remember when he was 16 years old. To watch him go from 16 to now 39, and just to watch, to know how much wisdom, there is, and how many games he's played, and his composure for the game has been, it's been masterful, and his career is unfolding like truly one of the all-time greats. Like, he is going to be one of the top 3-4 greatest players of all time when he retires. I don't think this loss should be held against him at all. I think the Lakers are going to have to look at these other guys, and they're going to have to ask themselves, how much better can we be here? There was some talk today about the Bulls potentially offering DeMar DeRozan 2 years, $80 million. The only thing I could think of was the Raptors weren't willing to offer Fred VanVleet that, or Pascal Siakam that, but the Bulls were willing to offer DeMar DeRozan that. I don't know what that says about these two respective franchises. I think what it says is the Raptors have Scotty Barnes and the Bulls don't. So the Raptors have the luxury to do that, and the Bulls don't. In terms of tomorrow, we have Bucks, Pacers tomorrow. That should be fun, should be interesting. Expect a response from the Pacers. So having a lot of debates today with Leo about, who is Tyrese Halliburton right now, Like, earlier in the season, we were seeing a guy flashing 11, 12 box plus minus, 10, 11 box plus minus, and then suddenly he's like 1.3 box plus minus in his first playoff game. That's crazy. A lot of people will be very quick to say Tyrese Halliburton is just not made for the playoffs. I will argue his numbers have dipped massively after, the All-Star break. Is he still injured? Too often we can become obsessed with what a player doesn't do well, and we start to lose the bigger picture of what the player does do well. When you talk about, and especially when a player, is going through a loss, right? Like right now, we might look at a Jalen Brunson who is struggling mightily in this series and just start nitpicking at what he doesn't do well, not realizing he does a ton of things well. We may look at a guy like Domantas Sabonis in his, shitty defense and his inability to shoot, and we might say, can you really win if that guy's one of your best players? Not really understanding how much pressure he puts on the rim and how ferocious he is as a rebounder and how physical he is and what a great passer he is. You might hone in on Joel Embiid and his crying, cribbing, weird, timeliness of his immature acts, but you completely miss the complete picture of just what a basketball savant he is and how talented he is and how much skill work and hard work went to get to that point. You don't learn to become that skilled out of the box. He picked the basketball late, you know. Some of his footwork is just incredible stuff. Like it's truly like when you start slowing down Joel Embiid, you start watching something and you don't even think is supposed to be physically possible, right? Um, Same thing with Nikola Jokic. You could talk about he doesn't shoot, he doesn't block shots. He don't block shots enough. He doesn't take enough threes. Makes a lot of threes. Didn't take enough threes. He's not great on switches. He's not great as a drop defender, or he doesn't hedge and recover very well. He doesn't cover well. You could talk about all these things. It's the same thing with Trae Young, like he's not a good defender. Maybe he's a bit of a prickly peach, but man, some of these players are so talented. This league is in such a talented place right now. And I think the playoffs have been better off for it. We are watching truly some of the best series. I think this was the best doubleheader I think I've ever seen in my life. And I've seen a lot of good doubleheaders. I've seen a lot of games that were close. To have this happen in the first round is, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. Will every day watching the playoffs be a letdown from here on out? Because it'll never live up to, Sixers, Knicks, Lakers, Nuggets, back to back. Jamal Murray hitting a freaking game winner, fading away, getting, and then Tyrese Maxey falling, and then somehow the ball hitting, Donte Divencenzo and hitting his hand and getting the three, and Nick Nurse crying. Like what? How do you match the height? Because you see, what made these games so amazing is they were competitive throughout. Never felt like the Nuggets were totally out of it. Never felt like the Lakers were completely out of the woods. And then, just as you felt like the Lakers had this game, the Nuggets just took it from them. Same thing with the Sixers. That's what made these games so interesting. The Sixers had this game. They had it literally the whole way through. And then somehow, through some divine miracle, which is elbow grease and hard work, this chippy, relentless, offensive rebounding, timely, gritty, defensive, crazy New York team just took it from them. And it happened like that. And both games followed that exact same format. One team led, they led throughout, they had the game, and the other team just stole it from them. And something crazy had to happen for that to happen. To have two games like that, to evoke those emotions of just not knowing what's going to happen, and then to have the thing happen that you thought was never going to happen, and you're just like, oh, the Lakers are going to win. It's like, oh no, the Lakers are not going to win. Insanity. Had this game gone to overtime, I'm very, very firm that the Nuggets would have won this game. The momentum had absolutely shifted for the Nuggets midway through the third quarter. I felt like right towards the end of the fourth quarter. And that's why I say it is so important how you end quarters. I noticed this, in the Philly-New York series with how the New York Knicks ended the half. I noticed this also in the Pacers-Bucks series, where the Pacers were like not really great at ending quarters well. This is such an important thing, to learn this. The other thing that's so important to learn, and I'm just witnessing this with, Joel Embiid and kind of his body language in the scrum, is when you're the best player, and I think if you've played competitive sports at any level and you were the best player, you know that your team is looking to you. You know what I mean? Like there's like a magnet in that ball, and it's going to find you. And so it's the same thing with after you lose. Like, what's your energy after you lose? Are you the morose guy who's sitting there complaining and you're a defeatist and you want to go home and you don't want to play anymore? You're saying everything was unfair? Because, what's done is done. They're not overturning the ruling. You lost. It's over. Now you put on a brave face, you come out and you say, okay, they did what they were supposed to do. We're going to do what we're supposed to do. And that's what it is. And you know, it helps you feel better. If you're a role player, your star player does that. Right now, the Philadelphia 76ers have a star player who is holding his head in the scrum, just looking down because he's disappointed. You got a head coach who's coming out into the media, blaming the referees and saying this and that. It's not going to do shit. It's not going to do anything. All it does is make you feel, you know, as a team, that there's a conspiracy against you and you got jobbed. And it doesn't really matter because, you know, getting jobbed only matters if you lose. You know, you could make a very strong case that what happened to the OKC Thunder with Mark Dagnall calling that timeout, it could have cost them the game. And I think had it cost them the game against the Pelicans, then that would have been the storyline the entire way through. Oh my God, why did he call timeout? It could have been a jump ball, et cetera, et cetera. But he didn't talk about it because they didn't lose the game. And I'm pretty sure, like, you know, he was asked about it and he kept his rationale, but he didn't lose his mind. You know what I mean? Like that next play mentality, it's so overstated, but it's so seldom understood. You need to move on. But man, I tell you, the reason that you want to close out quarters strong is because that huddle is long after a quarter. And if you end the quarter on a turnover, or if the other team ends a quarter on like a buzzer beater, man, that huddle is quiet. It's depressing. It's because everyone's just thinking about like how you just gave up 3 points that you weren't supposed to give up, or you just threw away a pass that you weren't supposed to throw. Oh, there's a huge miscommunication. There was a massive, massive gaffe right when the Nuggets were trying to catch up between Jokic and Murray, in which I believe that resulted in a turnover, which completely could have swung the game for the Lakers. It was a botched possession. Jokic is like trying to communicate to everybody on the weak side to get over onto the strong side, and he is just not getting through to them, and everything is late. And then somehow they just cough up the ball, and it turns into a turnover. And man, that team, the Nuggets, they taught me everything I need to know about them the next play down. There was no hangover. There was no impulse shot to try and get it back. It was just they played like champions. They played like champions today. They deserve to win. Stefan Morgan saying, Knicks Nation, stand up, bung. Yeah. Is Hal's synergy off playing with Pascal Siakam? I don't know. I just don't think he's healthy, man. Like, I mean, Pascal Siakam went through a similar injury, if you remember, and he was not right for a while either. So, do you think LeBron should have used more clock? I have to look at it. Debatable, you know. Like, I mean, like you could say you could have used a little bit more clock, but then it's not like Murray sprinted down the court and just took the first shot available, right? Like in either case, I think a lot of coaches would have called the timeout there. You know, I think a lesser coach would have called the timeout. And no offense to Darko Rajakovic, I'm pretty sure he would have called the timeout too. I think like if you polled the average coach, they call a timeout 99.99. A lot of coaches would have opted for a timeout there, in which case they would have been able to advance the ball and it wouldn't have really mattered, right? Like in that case, you know, sometimes, and I'm just saying, like 99.99, whether you have 2 seconds, whether you have 8 seconds, sometimes it's actually better to have 2 seconds because there's not a lot to think about. You just, you know, especially like, you know, in 2 seconds, the number of things you can do is limited. You know what I mean? So you're not really going to be able to run like 2 dribble handoffs and make some complicated plays. So sometimes it can result in like a more frantic breakdown for the defense where you find someone like wide open at the rim. My one big example is Vince Carter catching an alley-oop on the buzzer, like you know, against the Raptors. I remember that very clearly. So I don't think it would have changed. I don't think it would have changed the outcome. Tyrese is on record saying it has been very hard adjusting to playing with Pascal. Yeah. I don't doubt that. I mean, Pascal Siakam is, some people might find it a controversial statement, but I don't think he's necessarily the easiest guy to play off of. And he didn't really fit into what they were trying to do. But you know what? He asked for this, in fairness. He asked for help. He didn't like what they had going. And you know what? It doesn't really matter. Funny Impala saying I couldn't have scripted those two endings by any better. Me neither, man. That was crazy. Anyways, this is very late. It's nearly 3 a.m., but I just wanted to react. It's a very, very quick live reaction to this. I fully anticipate the Pacers to put up a better performance tomorrow. We'll see what else happens tomorrow. The Pelicans OKC Thunder is also tomorrow, and that should also be very interesting. And Dallas Clippers, round 2 is tomorrow, and a lot of people expect the Dallas Mavericks to be a lot more competitive, and maybe for the Clippers to fall back a little bit down to earth after their hot shooting and James Harden's crazy performance. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. But honestly, these teams are so evenly matched, right? Dallas could beat the Clippers. The Clippers could beat Dallas. That could happen. Minnesota can beat Phoenix. Phoenix can beat Minnesota. That's competitive. Indiana can beat Milwaukee, and Milwaukee without, Giannis, and Milwaukee can beat Indiana. So this is competitive. All of these series are competitive. Even like the one series where like a lot of people are clowning it, like Orlando, Cleveland. I'm telling you, Orlando wins 2 games. This is like a toss-up. You know what I mean? So it's like every series could go one of 2 ways, and it's like the only series that's even like remotely like the outcome is determined is whoever the hell is facing the Boston Celtics. But even Pelicans versus OKC, which is going to be on Wednesday, that can go either way too. I know people don't want to hear that, but it really can. The Pelicans played like the OKC Thunder amazingly. So like this is an amazing time to be an NBA fan. So awesome. And by the way, Scotty Barnes, not in the playoffs, right? LaMelo Ball, not in the playoffs. Victor Wembanyama, not in the playoffs. Amen Thompson, not in the playoffs. Asar Thompson, not in the playoffs. Yo, there's a lot of friggin' talent sitting at home right now, right? The Kings, not in the playoffs. Like, my God, this is... The TV rights deal can come at a better time. The league has never been in a better shape than it is right now, other than maybe the Jordan era, but that's like really like the golden ages of the NBA. Really, this is the best that I've seen the NBA in my adulthood. So that's basically 2003 onward. So that's 21 years. I've been pretty much an adult. That's not probably a fair thing to say, but yeah, for about 20 years, I would say. No, fuck that, man. I was a pretty mature kid. Okay. I'll give 13-year-old Rob some credit. So over the last 20 plus years, 22, 23 years, over the last 23 years, this is the best version of the NBA I've ever seen. And yes, you do have some aging stars. LeBron James, Chris Paul, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, right? Kevin Durant. They're aging out. But man, there's like this Wembanyama thing coming up, and it's going to be incredible. And the OKC Thunder coming up, that's going to be incredible. I was thinking about, where I would draft Scotty. Like, where would a rational person, not me, because Scotty's going first in every draft. I do, but where would a rational person draft Scotty in the 25 under 25 draft right now? Think about that. And let me know in the comments below when this video goes live. Anyways, give this video a like on your way in. There were no call-ins today, but yeah. Oh, and Ja is sitting at home. Yes, good point. Ja Morant. And, Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball are sitting at home. Like, there's a lot of talent, man. Anyways. Okay. Yeah. All right. Talk to y'all later. Peace. Like this video. All that good stuff. No video game talk today. All right. Peace.